Good afternoon. It's great to be here at the Faculty Club in this magnificent setting. Thanks for having me come in today. And welcome to the world of travel. Welcome to the world of the Caribbean. And welcome to the story of the Caribbean, which is what we will concentrate on today. You know, I was struggling for a topic, and I thought of a topic that would kind of tell it all, and that is the Caribbean, much more than just pirates. And in telling the story, you start with the history, because the history is fascinating, exciting, it's dramatic, it's constantly changing. And that's the fun part in talking about the history, because it starts actually with a man that you've heard of many times by the name of Christopher Columbus. And 1493, on his third voyage from Spain, after being commissioned by Queen Isabella in Spain to discover the New World, he set foot in the Caribbean islands. And where he set foot was on the island of St. Martin, which some of you will see as you go on a cruise to the Caribbean. That was in 1493, and for the next 10 years, Christopher Columbus played a big role in the Caribbean, including being a governor. So we're going to talk a little more about Christopher Columbus, and then we're going to move to the next era in the Caribbean history, and that is the era of the colonization. Fascinating. You had European countries, and you had all of the South American countries and Asian countries involved. It was a fascinating time. I call it the era of colonialization. And then from there, we're going to talk about a time in the history of the Caribbean that wasn't quite as pleasant, and that's the era of slavery. We'll talk a little about that. Then we're going to move ahead, and we're going to talk briefly about what happened as a result of the wars, World War I and World War II. And that brings us up to the modern time. We're going to talk about the ports. Some of these ports are available to visit, which if you haven't been there, you must see because they're beautiful. And secondly, we're going to talk about the culture and the music. We might even have a little music come on here in a few minutes for us all to stand up and kind of get the feel for the dynamic rhythms and the music of the Caribbean. Now, in addition to that, we're going to dim the lights and we're going to look at some photos, because my photos illustrate what I'm saying in my points that I make. I think you'll enjoy this. So let's start with the history. Well, first of all, Christopher Columbus, he was a real adventurer. We know him as just a person that came from Spain to discover the Americas, but he started in Portugal. He went to the King of Portugal, tried to get funds, couldn't get them from Portugal, so he went to Spain. And he made contact with Queen Isabella, and she in turn was able to sponsor him to come on the first trip, which was supposedly to discover India. Obviously, he got a little off track, and he ended up in the Americas. The second voyage was a similar voyage, but the third voyage, he came a little south, thanks to the trade winds. And that's when he set foot on the island of St. Martin. And it's been a fascinating history for that particular island, as it has for all of the islands, because all of a sudden, the Europeans knew of this gorgeous area known as the Caribbean. So that's where we'll take a little more time to talk about Christopher Columbus, and then we're going to move into what did he find when he was here, what kind of people did he find, a little about the Indians, how the name Caribbean came to be, which came out of the Carib Indians, and then we're going to talk about what Europe was going to do in response to him coming into this island. So I think it'll be interesting. So let's get started. We're going to dim the lights and we'll take it from there.